And in for Amy is John Cash, Chicago Tribune columnist. Why are you holding up your smartphone?
Because I just got a text from my wife, the lovely Sicilian Betty, who said, "You're doing a great job, John. Good guests. But what's wrong with a personal shopper?
Exactly.
You've had one for 30 years.
Hi-oh. Exactly.
Okay, but I'm married to my personal shopper. Okay? Under God. Okay? Thank you. And I go to the butcher shop, and I'm the personal shopper for the rib roast on Christmas morning.
You swore an oath before God to your wife and to your personal shopper, who happens to be the same person.
She wasn't my personal shopper when we got married, but that's how things happen.
Well, she doesn't want
to
be.
And now, by the time now that it's 30 years later, it's like, no, we're the gray suit.
She doesn't.
Like that.
Well, she doesn't want to be embarrassed by you when you go out in public. So it's understandable.
It is. There is something of that.
Yeah. Put that powder blue tuxedo that you wore at your
with
wedding
the ruffles.
Away.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All
and
right.
the top hat and cane. Yeah.
We were talking a little bit about the recount before, which starts in Wisconsin today. At least the election officials are gathering to try and figure it out. This gambit from the Green Party and the Hillary camp, and I repeat myself. And Reince Priebus had this to say over the weekend about this little foray into post-election bedwetting by the left.
On election night, Hillary Clinton was the one to say it's time to accept the results of the election and look to the future. And it was their team that cut a deal with our team that said when the AP called the race, they would call within 15 minutes and concede, which they did. It is a total and complete hypocritical joke that the group of people that thought that they were nervous about President-elect Trump not conceding are the people that are conducting recounts in states where we've won by over 68,000 votes. I think the American people know this is a waste of everyone's time and money, and is only for to divide this country when we need to come together, no matter who you are, Republican, Democrat.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good summary.
I don't necessarily agree that we have to come together, because I don't like getting told what to do by anybody. But as far as the fact that there's hypocrisy here, come on, of course.
Well, for more on this, we're pleased to be joined again by our friend, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, the Executive Director, Chairman of the Board for the National Center for Policy Analysis in Dallas. Lieutenant Colonel West, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to be with you, Dan and John. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yeah, same to you and your family. Question for you. Your reaction to this recount gambit that's been joined by the Hillary camp, do you essentially come down on similar footing to where Reince Priebus is?
Well, absolutely so. And as a matter of fact, it was Hillary Clinton's lawyer who said that they really had no evidence of any wrongdoing or failure of election machines in Wisconsin. So in other words, they don't have a probable cause. And the other thing is that I find it very interesting. If you would concede an election, then you would go and join in on a recount. This whole recount thing is being started by Jill Stein, and if I'm correct, Jill Stein got between 30 and 35,000 votes in Wisconsin. Donald Trump got about 1.5 million. So does she really believe that there's going to be a recount that closes the gap for her to somehow win Wisconsin? I find that unconscionable. So this is just another case of the liberal progressive left that is pouting, refusing, as you all know very well, how they went just apoplectic, saying that Donald Trump is not going to support the democratic process and he is undermining our system of governance. But now they're the ones that are doing the exact same thing.
Well, Chris Wallace was the first, right?
In the third debate.
In the debate, and he was, oh my gosh, how dare he not concede immediately if he loses? Where's the media now? Where are they?
Well, you're absolutely right. And the thing is, why would you ask someone in the third debate, or are you going to, basically say,
are you going to lose? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like going out before a football game and saying, "Hey, coach, what are you going to say in your after the game show when you lost the game?" Well, I mean, I'm not going into the game thinking that I'm going to lose. So it is incredible that the left did not think further enough ahead. Of course, they thought the pollsters were correct and they weren't going to lose anyhow. But now they have put them in a position where you're right. They look like abject hypocrites.
I know national security is a particular focus of yours, your decorated military service. The assessment you have of the Trump national security team as it's constituted to this point and where you come down now that it has bubbled to the public arena on this whole flap about whether or not Mitt Romney should be under consideration for Secretary of State.
Well, first of all, I'll just make a comparative analysis between Lieutenant General Mike Flynn and K.T. McFarland to Susan Rice and Ben Rhodes. If I'm correct, Ben Rhodes got a master's degree writing poetry. So I would say that, Donald Trump definitely has an advantage in the people that he is putting there. Someone such as K.T. McFarland, who has, an incredible history throughout 3 presidential administrations in the Pentagon, national security arena, and the former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency and the operational intelligence chief for General McChrystal in Afghanistan. That's who Lieutenant General Flynn is. So they're head and shoulders above what we have had. And, of course, the debacles that you have seen with Syria, Russia, Libya, the Middle East, you name it. I think that we have a better national security team. Now, as far as, Governor Mitt Romney, it is kind of a perplexing, selection that he would have his name out there. If Donald Trump wants to play the team of rivals game with, such as, with Abraham Lincoln, he has to be very careful because you're going to be sending someone out as your Secretary of State. They have to be preaching your message. They have to be carrying your national security and foreign policy agenda and vision and strategy, not their own. So I think that that's something that, they're going to have to look at. And then, of course, you have the base, which is really perplexed. Why would you have someone that, so vehemently spoke out against you and attacked you to be your, right-hand person, which is the Secretary of State when it comes to foreign affairs?
Do you have a favorite for SecDef? A number of names mentioned, all interesting for different reasons. Of course, Mad Dog Mattis, the decorated Marine general, an iconic figure. Tom Cotton, the senator from Arkansas. Jim Talent from Missouri. And then former Michigan Congressman Mike Rogers mentioned for Director of National Intelligence. What do you think of those gentlemen?
Well, I would say that when I look at, General Mattis, without a doubt, we've got to, a priority effort has to be the Middle East. He was there as the Central Command commander. And, having been a major combatant command leader such as that, I think that he knows the in and outs of national security strategy at that level, as well as understanding the operational and tactical level. So I believe that he is a fine choice, and he brings that credibility to be able to go out there and speak all across the globe. And he's a warrior. He's a Marine. I had several interactions with him when I was a representative up there on Capitol Hill. Just a fine gentleman. As far as Mike Rogers being the Director of National Intelligence, there are some issues there with some connections between he, his wife, and the Blue Mountain Group, which was the guys who contracted out the security for our, the embassy, not the embassy, but the Special Mission Compound in Benghazi. So that might cause some issues there, a conflict of interest, because they'll bring back the Sphere and the Spectre of Benghazi. But there are many good people out there for Director of National Intelligence that have been in the intelligence field for quite some time.
Getting back to the Romney thing, what kind of signal does it send to the Trump base if Trump picks Romney, who called basically Trump and his supporters frauds and fools?
Well, it could be perceived as a little bit of a slap in the face. I mean, we saw Kellyanne Conway, who was an incredible campaign manager. I mean, she took over that campaign and got it to where it needed to be, and her comments yesterday on CNN Sunday. So it does cause concern, and I think that you have to think about, those people that were out there doing everything they possibly could to get you elected, for you to put someone who, spoke out so strongly against you in that critical position as Secretary of State.
We're talking to Colonel Allen West, of course, the former congressman, now the executive director, chairman of the board for the National Center for Policy Analysis in Dallas, Texas. And Colonel West, I got to get you to weigh in on this. The statements by Colin Kaepernick, Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada, President Obama, and the reason I grouped them together is because I can't distinguish the three statements. The statements on the passing of Fidel Castro and the stark contrast, the yawning divide between the left's reaction to Castro's death and the right's reaction to his death, and what that says about our politics today.
Well, I think one group understands history. The other group is trying to endeavor in revisionist history. And it just shows that the progressive socialist left, they embrace the radical thoughts of someone like a Fidel Castro. And, you need to be very careful because Iran's going to be sending a delegation to the Castro funeral of Palestinian leaders who, that was the origination of Islamic terrorism in the Middle East. They are praising Fidel Castro. I think that we want to be on the right side of history, but yet you see these leftist leaders such as Trudeau and Obama, and you see a very misguided child in Colin Kaepernick who got booed. He got booed.
Wrong weekend to be in Miami. Yeah, right.
Yeah, wrong weekend to be in Miami.
He's coming to Chicago.
So I think that they're just trying to, have a revisionist history perspective. And I think that they embrace those type of radical socialist and Marxist policies. That is what Cuba has been under siege by, oppressed by all these years.
And one more question before we let you go. I know the National Center for Policy Analysis does a lot of work in the healthcare space, healthcare policy, a replacement for Obamacare. The rumors of Bobby Jindal, the former Louisiana governor, being head of Health and Human Services, that would be a critical role. What's your assessment of that possibility?
Well, I kind of thought that Governor Jindal would probably have been the Secretary of Education because of the work that he had done down in the state of Louisiana trying to bring it out of the muck and mire. But again, you're talking about someone that is, incredibly bright. He's an incredible policy wonkish type of guy. And if there's someone that is forthright and understanding the pitfalls of the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act and can come up with better solutions, it would be Bobby Jindal. So I would look forward to him, getting that position and moving on. Of course, going into it, many thought that would be something that Dr. Ben Carson would have been in, that or Surgeon General. I know that Dr. Tom Price, Representative Price from Georgia, was another consideration. But I think Bobby Jindal would be a good choice there. And look, we've got to do something about the Affordable Care Act. It has destroyed, small businesses. It is, many people. I think the big October surprise was folks getting those health insurance premium increases.
Yeah, there's no question about that. That had impact. He is Colonel Allen West, favorite of this show, Executive Director, Chairman of the Board, National Center for Policy Analysis in Dallas. Colonel West, thanks for joining us as always.
Always a pleasure, Dan, John. Y'all take care.
Thank you. And again, go to upstream-ideas.com if you want to catch a long-form interview with Colonel Allen West that I did just a couple weeks ago, a week before the election. He joined us on the Turnkey.Pro Answer Line.